Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kosala, also known as Marventus, bringing you the class preview of the Barbarian class for Diablo 3. Stunner of a day here in Hertfordshire, England, and I am staying indoors just to bring you this. That's how it is. That's how it is. Everything for the fans. Let's get ourselves into the mood with some intriguing concept art and screenshots. Now, this is some early concept work for the male Barbarian. It looks to be in a bit of a snowy sort of climb. If you guys are fans of lore, the barbarian tribes do herald from northern parts of the map. We'll get into the map later on in a video as well. But you'll notice that they're quite a robust grouping of individuals who live off the land and are actually lore-based wise, also nomadic by nature. The barbarians call themselves the children of Bull Kathos. I have absolutely no idea who the hell Bull Kathos is, but I assume he's a major badass from back in the day. But they do consider themselves that. Everybody else calls them barbarians for no other reason than they're extremely massive. Let's take a look at the female barbarian over here. Looks like a saucy wench indeed, wielding her sword, wearing well, very little really. And here in the migration from the northern lands to the lower steppes and dunes of desert steppes that they inhabit today are visible in this particular image. I like the fact that they've actually got a very distinctive look and feel for the male and the female barbarian, which indeed they should. Much less armor on the female barbarian, as you can see as well. I assume though that in the game they're pretty much wearing the same types of armor and will be visible in the same way, but I'm not totally sure about that. So we'll have to wait and see how that works out. Apparently, I did find some sort of reference that says that the male barbarian and the female barbarian actually have different kinds of lore. Been doing some searching, but actually haven't found any significant proof showing that that's actually the case. So if anybody knows something that they can point me to, feel free to comment below and let me know. Here we see some armor progression on the barbarian. This guy looks like he's just walked out of a major battle. That is some serious weaponry he's hauling there. There's got one in each hand, some one-handed axe, a triple-headed mace, and he's got at least 3 weapons strapped to his back, along with a shield that I can spy. Well, that's some serious gear, you know, it would actually be pretty comical if warriors in previous times actually walked around like this, because they must basically have been hauling their entire worldly possessions on their back. How they managed to fight at the same time, God only knows. But again, another stunning piece of artwork from Blizzard over here. And here we have the barbarian having achieved ultimate victory. Something is dying beneath him there. It's got horns. It looks very Diablo-esque. His sword is glowing with the heat of a recent thrust. There's another sword behind him that's pretty much the same size as he is. This is one awesome piece of artwork. And here again, we've got a weapon in each hand with 1, 2, 3, 4 weapons strapped to his back. No shield this time, though, because he's basically just too cool for school. But a really, really wonderful image. Now you can imagine this kind of victory cry occurring when you down the end bosses yourself. I can imagine people yelling and screaming behind their computers as we speak. I know I will be. But let's mosey on to some in-game screenshots. Here we've got the female barbarian doing her thing. This particular boss is I think the end of Act 1. It is the assault beast that comes charging out of the wall in the first video that Blizzard published. Diablo doesn't publish videos, he just eats people. That's the way it is. But if you guys have not seen it, definitely go back and view it, and you'll find a commentated version of that on my channel as well. Because the video is absolutely hilariously cool, because at one point he actually picks up the barbarian and chews her in half, which is actually pretty damn funny to watch. But let us mosey right on to skills and traits. I'm actually not going to talk about traits for no other reason than the fact that there simply isn't enough information about the traits. The traits, if you don't know, are basically a passive booster. It's a way to customize and make your character unique. It only augments passive skills. But there's just too little documentation on that right now, so I can't get into it. So let's go straight into the 7 tiers of skills that you have available to you. In Tier 1, we've got Bash, Rampage, and Cleave. Bash is our good old bash from back in the day. It does weapon damage, and then it also knocks back the foe. Very useful because of course you'll have multiple foes attacking you, so knocking them back means they're not going to be hitting you. I can remember sitting and hitting that bash button over and over again in Diablo 2. And then we have Rampage, which increases the attack speed and makes you hit more than one target, which is always awesome. Right, easily coupled with Cleave that hit multiple targets in a cone. Although this time only doing percentage damage to all. So you don't do full weapon damage to everybody that you're hitting. That's a sort of important thing to understand. I think the Cleave is a slow attack too, but I'm not totally sure about that. We'll have to wait and see how it goes in the game when it shows up. In Tier 2, we have Ground Stomp. This is when the Barbarian stomps on the ground, stuns enemies in a circle. There is actually a nice vid of this on Blizzard's Barbarian site that you can take a look at, along with the Cleave as well. Ignore Pain reduces all damage taken and grants immunity to root, stun and snare. I can see that being all kinds of useful in PvP. We'll be covering PvP on this channel as well later on. And then we have Warcry, which is a massive yell that generates something called Fury, and then increases armor for all in range. What is Fury, you ask? Excellent question. My answer is I have absolutely no idea. I've been doing some looking around on what Fury is. Can't seem to find anything about it just yet, but I will keep digging until some clear information shows up. I imagine it's some sort of mechanic or system, but not exactly sure what that is. And I'm assuming you're spending it on boosting attacks of some kind. But once again, not totally sure. If somebody does know, comment below. Throw Weapon. Hurls weapon at enemy for NMB. Whoa, that's a bit of a typo there that I seem to have missed. I do apologize. Hurls weapon at enemy, of course, for a percentage damage and slows. So again, you don't do the full damage, but you get to do a distant attack. It hurls at the enemy and it slows, which can be exceedingly handy. If you remember back in the old Diablo 2 days, there's a whole bunch of mobs that really are completely useless unless they actually get close to you. So this is a wonderful way to keep everyone at a distance. Let's move on to Tier 3. We've got Frenzy, Revenge, and Hammer of the Ancients. Frenzy, each strike increases speed and damage, and it stacks. Now this, of course, is the mother of all right skills that you want to have. This is what makes the Barbarian a machine. You do need to have this at some point in your life, because it will make your existence in the world of Diablo so amazingly much more fun as the Barbarian. Revenge, chance to activate when hit. This is actually a passive skill. It only activates occasionally when you get hit, and it hits multiple targets in front of you passively and also heals you for every hit that you make. Fantastic. It's some impromptu bandaging there. Hammer of the Ancients. A massive hammer appears and hits everyone. Critical chance is increased while it's active. This is only active for a certain amount of seconds, of course. I can't find any kind of visual reference for this, but it's got to look absolutely cool. So I'm dying to see a screenshot of this occurring. But Hammer of the Ancients, big hammer, just pops up, slam dunk, and there you have it. Dead bad guys. The way it should be. Tier 4, we've got Leap Attack, Sprint, and Threatening Shout. Leap Attack is the standard leap attack from back in the day. You jump forward, does a percentage amount of damage to anything that's in the vicinity when you land. Clearly, you should not be in its way when this is happening. Sprint just makes you run faster. Red Bull does that also, as we know. But in the world of Diablo, we've got Sprint. Threatening Shout. Yells loud enough to make enemies hit you less hard. Now, for the life of me, I can't figure out how that's a logical mechanic, but who cares? But it sounds like a very, very useful skill to have. So big yell and enemies hit you less hard. So I hope that these debuffs actually stack, because we've run through a couple now that make enemies move slowly, that make them have less armor, that debuff their hit level. If all of this were to stack, that would certainly make life vastly simpler. Tier 5. We've got Ancient Spear, Battle Rage, Rend, and Seismic Slam. Ancient Spear throws a spear forward, impales any target that's in the way, and then pulls it to you. The spear does have a range, of course. It doesn't go on indefinitely, but you throw a spear, it hits everything. So if you've got like mobs in a line, this is perfect. You throw a spear, it impales everything, it comes to you, and it does damage, so you can then whittle away whatever is left. Battle Rage makes your Barbarian extremely mad, and then you do more damage and more crit, as indeed one does. Right, this is the old adrenaline kick happening, all very nice. Rend does a vicious amount of damage to all in front, and then also adds a dot. That's very nice. I don't recall in the previous Diablo Barbarian. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I don't recall there being any kind of damage over time uh, utility or skill at all for the Barbarian. So it's nice that that's been added. You'll notice that a whole lot of this stuff is very, very reminiscent of World of Warcraft warriors, which I guess isn't bad because it was a fun class to play in WoW as well. And the majority of these skills were actually around in one form or another there as well. Seismic Slam. Slams feet on ground, causes AoE damage and knockback. Again, extremely useful because if you remember back in how Diablo works, it's not like mobs come at you one at a time. But very useful to be able to knock a few back and to reduce the amount of incoming damage. Tier 6. Furious Charge, Taunt and Whirlwind. Furious Charge charges the enemy, causes a percentage of damage and stuns them. Once again, you don't get to do full weapon damage, only a percentage of damage, but it does stun them, which is very useful. Taunt forces monsters to attack you and this is the clincher, they also cause less damage. I don't recall that being the case at any point in a previous game, but it certainly wasn't the case in WoW either, actually. You just taunted, things attacked you. So here as well, you can taunt, things will attack you, but it'll also cause less damage for a certain amount of seconds. Fantastic. I'm curious about the taunt thing because this tends to yields to believe that there might be quite a large multiplayer component happening where team play is recommended or incentivized, which is excellent. Right, so taunt, you can taunt off your fellow team members. Fantastic. Whirlwind, barbarian style, swirls in a cyclone, hitting multiple opponents in reach. This is the classic whirlwind from Diablo 2. The favorite spell of everyone who plays a barbarian, of course. Looks absolutely epic. And I think there's actually a video of this on the Blizzard site as well, if you can find it. If not, I'll dig one up if it's there eventually. And the final tier, tier 7, which you can only get at level 26, Call of the Ancients, summons 3 ancient barbarians who kick butt for you. This is awesome. It summons 3 named barbarians from back in the day, old guys with some game, right, who come in and help you deal out the damage. Earthquake. Now, I'm confused about how the visual of this is going to look. Shakes the earth violently and does massive AoE damage. What does that mean? I'm sort of visualizing the barbarian hugging the floor, pushing his fingers into it, then wiggling like a lunatic until earthquakes happen. Or what's the deal there? It's hard to say. I have yet to see a single visual of this occurring, so I'm very curious about how this is going to look. I hope it's not going to be yet another I'm jumping up and down on the floor because we've already had 2 of those. Right, so hopefully they've got a different sort of animation for this. And then we have Wrath of the Berserker. It raises all the stats that matter, which is the stuff that does more damage or gets you to avoid damage, and ignores enemies' damage reduction abilities. Very, very nice. So if the mob that you're battling or the boss that you're battling has any kind of damage reduction abilities, all of it is going to be ignored when under the influence of Wrath of the Berserker. Absolutely effingly top-notch. Now then, there we are, 7 tiers of skills. We have come to the end of our Barbarian preview. I will have one of these class previews out for every single class based on what information is currently out there. Looking forward to bringing you more. Remember to thumbs up, thumbs down, and comment below if you like this sort of thing, and I shall keep them coming. Thank you very much for watching, and have a lovely weekend.